Hello and welcome, I'm Reece, and here's what happened this week. This week saw Taiwan's 3 presidential candidates battling it out ahead of January's general election. All 3 appeared together on TV Wednesday evening to outline their policies. As Sally Jensen reports, much of the focus was on China.
The first policy forum of 3 is over for Taiwan's presidential candidates, and there were few surprises. Standing for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, was current Vice President Lai Ching-te, who has a small lead in the polls. He faced off against Hou You-yi of the main opposition Kuomintang, or KMT, and the Taiwan People's Party, or TPP, candidate Ke Wen-je, Taipei's former mayor. They each got to lay out their policies, and the hottest topic was China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory. Broadcast on local television, the forum kicked off with the KMT's Hou pressing Lai to clarify his stance on Taiwan independence, while holding up an image of Lai as a young pro-independence activist.
是不是要来骗选票，还是要来暗砍你的台独？所以看到这个情形，想着讲民进党这几年的做法，互大家有够袂放心的啦。
Hou spoke largely in Taiwanese, unusual for a KMT candidate whose party's traditional support base is older, China-friendly Mandarin speakers. Lai responded by saying that by running for president, as far as China is concerned, all 3 candidates are pro-independence, making them enemies in Beijing's eyes.
中国要并吞台湾，是他们的国家政策，争取世界霸权。 不是哪一个政党或哪一个人有什么主张所引起，也不是你们全盘接受中国的主张就有办法阻止。
The TPP's Ke tried to rise above the fray, only briefly stating he supports the status quo in terms of cross-strait relations. He was more interested in talking about judicial reform, housing and urban planning, issues he considers most important to his base, Taiwan's younger voters. They are often characterized as tired of the 2-party system and political bickering about China-Taiwan relations. Ke told them to rally the support of their elders.
每天5分钟，每个礼拜至少5天。如果住在一起，就跟这些长辈，面对面讲话；如果没有住在一起，也可以打个电话给他。
The 3 also talked corruption, energy, and land ownership. Other domestic issues key to winning over undecided voters. With 2 more televised policy forums before elections in January, the candidates hope to push their agendas enough to stand apart from each other and win the public vote. Devin Tsai and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
A civil defense school is teaching people how to fight Chinese disinformation ahead of Taiwan's presidential election. Yujing Huang has this report.
Combating Chinese disinformation ahead of a crucial election. There are just weeks left until Taiwan chooses its next president. And China, which claims Taiwan and threatens to invade, is trying to affect the outcome, using tactics like disinformation. Civil defense group Kuma Academy held this public workshop to inform voters of what they should look out for. The organization has held hundreds of lessons like this one over the past year, ranging from educating people on countering China's cognitive warfare against Taiwan to providing basic knowledge on what to do if a war breaks out. The academy normally charges for its classes, but held this outdoor event in the central city of Taichung for free to spread awareness of Chinese efforts to the public.
General citizens, they need not only media literacy, they need some sort of ability to do, let's say, open source intelligence. They could trace, who are the cyber army. They could check maybe what's the source code, for certain websites. To understand the real strategy from China would be something that we need to learn.
Kuma Academy founder Puma Shen says China only needs to change the minds of 3% of voters, based on the 40 million who voted in the 2020 election. That's about 400,000 people. Beijing's trying to get them to vote for a more China-friendly candidate.
With less than a month until Taiwan's presidential election, many voters are concerned about Chinese interference. This crowd is full of people of all ages, braving the cold we can't weather.
要防止假消息散布，因为大家现在都很相信那种片面的那种很耸动的标题，就觉得这个认知作战真的非常的重要。
以前是匪谍在你旁边，现在不是匪谍在你旁边，是那个网络在你旁边。
我大概从2018，应该是2018那次选举之后，才意识到其实台湾已经被影响蛮严重，所以从那之后，每一次选举都非常担心。
Some attendees at the event say they've already felt the effects of Chinese manipulation, both online and off.
现在太多影片都是中国做的影片啊，很多人都会丢啊。
像地方的公庙啦，有一些组织都是他们参加那个志工活动或者什么的，就是带头的那几个，他会利用一些资源，比如说请他们去南部玩啦。
他们现在对我们的这些攻击可以说是。
Many people here say they don't want to be ruled by China and are apprehensive about a more Beijing-friendly candidate taking office. This shows that China will play a pivotal role in the election outcome. But the Academy hopes its training means people vote based on candidate policy, not on disinformation. Huang Wang and Yu Junhuang in Taichung for TaiwanPlus.
China is cutting special tax treatment for a dozen Taiwanese chemical products. Beijing says it's retaliation for what it calls unfair Taiwanese trade restrictions on Chinese imports. The chemical products are currently covered by a 2010 bilateral agreement to reduce tariffs and trade barriers. The new tax rules will take effect January 1st, just 2 weeks before Taiwan's national elections. Taiwan's government says the move will have a very limited impact on local businesses and its economic coercion by Beijing. China has lashed out over US arms sales to Taiwan, demanding that Washington stop supporting what it calls Taiwanese separatists.
中方敦促美方把坚持一个中国政策、不支持台独等承诺落到实处，停止武装台湾的危险趋势，停止制造台海紧张因素，停止纵容和支持台独分裂势力以武谋独。
Washington announced a $300 million weapon sale to Taiwan last week. The Chinese Communist Party claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory, despite never having ruled it. Taiwan's government says Taiwan is its own country and that its people will decide their own future. Taiwan has introduced tougher penalties for firing a gun in public. Offenders will now get at least 7 years in prison, alongside a fine of almost $500,000. The new laws make exceptions for Taiwanese indigenous peoples who use firearms for hunting. The changes follow a series of high-profile shooting incidents in the country this year, including one in which a teenager emptied a clip into a pawn shop. Researchers at a university in Taiwan are hoping to push broadband communication technology with the help of 2 new satellites. Tiffany Wong reports.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
This rocket is carrying 2 satellites, which are fueling a new generation of space engineers in Taiwan. Known as Pearl 1H and Pearl 1C, the broadband communication satellites were launched last month by Taiwanese tech giant Foxconn. Now the company is collaborating with space and science researchers at National Central University to test their beyond 5G capabilities, a technology that could make digital communications even faster.
这个画面就是它一直在扫描这附近的那个波段，然后可以看到就是这个一个一个白白的比较强的讯号，是我们地面站发送给卫星的讯号。
The process requires constant oversight by researchers, as the satellite can shift its position in space, but can only be adjusted twice a day. It may take another month before the satellites stabilize, but researchers are already looking forward to future developments in the field that can be made using them.
后年的话，我们有规划另外2颗，我们叫做珍珠号的 1A、1B。那我除了进行地面通联以外，那我们会再进一步的来执行所谓的卫星间的通讯。 那这个部分我们所需要的操控技巧就更高了。
As digital communication technology develops, these researchers hope their institute can cultivate more space engineers, pushing Taiwanese talent to the forefront of innovation in the new space race. Howard Zhang and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is struggling to meet the challenges of its aging demographics, changes that many other countries will soon face. Bryn Thomas has the story.
Taiwan has spent more money on long-term care in 2023 than ever before, but over $2 billion was still not enough to meet the country's ever greater need to care for its elderly population. This problem came into harsh focus in the past week when a man in the sovereign city of Tainan was arrested for killing his ill mother. Reports said the stress of taking care of her was too much for him. In Taiwan, looking after elderly people is a responsibility that often falls on their immediate family or migrant workers. Healthcare professionals say help is available for these caregivers, but many struggle to find it.
我们知道很多照顾者他其实是不习惯求助的。我们体系内其实是有照顾者支持系统，那可是其实还有不普及的地方。
Despite Taiwan's record budget this year for long-term care, people in the industry say medical capacity is the bigger issue.
在医疗推行这么多年，那可是使用者可以使用到的民众其实是很少，因为这个根结的问题其实还是在那个供给面不足了。
Taiwan is not the only country facing these challenges. Neighboring Japan and South Korea have similarly aging societies and their own plans to meet rising demands for long-term care. But for Taiwan, the ability to look after its older population will come down to the resources it's willing to commit to its caregivers. Luffy Lee, Philip Broussard, and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
A famous landmark has collapsed into the ocean in northern Taiwan. I went to the coast to check out other at-risk rock formations. Standing proud on Taiwan's northeastern coast, the regal Queen's Head Rock, named for its resemblance to the UK's late Queen Elizabeth II. Located inside Yelio Geopark, she's a popular tourist attraction. All eyes are now on her shrinking neck, however, after part of the neighbouring Elephant Trunk Rock collapsed into the sea over the weekend. The result of the collapse was discovered by an on-duty security guard.
我仔细一看，他的头跟鼻子都不见了。
4 years ago, geologists predicted that the natural stone arch would stand for at least another millennium, though Mother Nature clearly had other ideas.
可能就是因为海浪的拍打，那个时候风非常的大。
Despite the missing trunk, tourists have still come to catch a glimpse of what's left of the arch.
觉得就看不到这个自然的风景了，可是这就是自然的现象，所以还是接受它。
But staff on site have been instructed to keep tourists away from the crumbling structure.
象鼻岩因为崩塌的关系，所以说现在游客暂时禁止进入，怕有危险的关系。
Further south, at the Queen's Head Rock, tourists gather to take what could be their final photos of this striking stone.
还蛮惊讶的，但是是预估内的事情，因为这时间到还是都会断，所以想说来记录一下。
Experts are worried the Queen's Head could be the next famous formation to collapse. As of now, her neck measures 118 centimetres around, a full metre thinner than it was 50 years ago. Geologists say the Queen could lose her head within 5 years. Typhoons and earthquakes strike Taiwan's northeast multiple times per year. It's impossible to know exactly when, but this Queen's Head will roll. Thanks for joining us today for Here's What Happened. Before signing off, we bring you this footage of animals at London's Sea Life Aquarium getting some special Christmas treats this week. I'm Reece, happy holidays, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus. Be sure to follow us on social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world.